Hello, my friends. Welcome to a very special bite-sized episode of Thumb Together, and I'm joined by a very special bite-sized guest. This is James Rasile from Digital Charcuterie and Rebel Scum Podcast. How you doing, James?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, no problem. You're my first ever guest.
Wow.
My channel's still a baby, so you're you're breaking my guest virginity. So thank you for that.
Awesome.
We are here to talk about a little movie we saw last night called Ready Player Uno. We saw the Spanish version.
It was good, though. It was good.
It was great. It was muy bien. Now, you and I both read the book. And what we want to talk about today in this video in particular is the differences. We made a video on your channel. You can check it out on his channel, Digital Charcuterie. It'll be up tonight as well, and I'll put a link in the description below. That video is about all the Easter eggs that we spotted, and we spotted maybe a fraction of them. But if you have the list in front of you, you have the list in front of you still? Show them. This is just what James and I saw, but we missed a lot, apparently. That's how, so
yeah.
So there's,
and some of these are like 4 things on a line. It's not just one.
Yeah. So you can check that out again on Digital Charcuterie. James also has a review up of the movie itself, and I've got one up as well. But this video, we just wanted to talk about the differences between this and the film because there are big ones. And I personally think, I don't know if you agree with me, James, but I think that this was the textbook example of how you adapt something the right way. Because the games in the book suit the format of the written word, but they needed to be changed to suit the format of an audiovisual experience. And I think they nailed it. Would you say so?
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, look at Spielberg. Jaws, Jurassic Park, Schindler's List. It's not like he doesn't have experience going from book to film. For me, I usually find the books to be better than the movies, as a lot of people do. And Jurassic Park is one that I like the book better than the movie, but I know there's a lot of people... And that's not to take away from the movie, because the movie is great on its own. But I think that's what Spielberg does better than most people who adapt, is he doesn't try to make the book. He's like, well, let's just make a movie about this.
Right. I think he's one of the few directors who understands that there is a time and a place to be faithful, and then there's a time and a place to make something new. And that's what I love so much about this movie is, the book left me wanting just more. I wanted more puzzles and more Oasis and stuff, and that's what this gave me. It told the same story, just with different facets to it. It's like a parallel universe version of what happened in the book. So let's dive into those. Mainly the first big ones are the games themselves. There are, the challenges that Halliday makes. He's got 6 challenges in the book, and they whittled that down to 3 in the movie for time purposes. Otherwise, we'd still be in the theater. Wow. But they did a good job of translating them. Now, the first one in the book was Joust. Wade had to go through this maze, and he found a Joust arcade cabinet, and he just had to play Joust, and he had to play it really well. And
you had to beat a knight at it, though.
You had to beat a knight, yeah. And the knight would kill him if he lost. And thankfully, they did it so well in the book, but thankfully they understood that this is a little bit of a different situation when you're watching it on a big screen. And to watch somebody play a video game isn't all that exciting. So they turned it into a race through a virtual New York City with every car imaginable. What did you think of that transition?
At first I was disappointed. I'm like, where's Joust? Where's this? But the way... I guess we should say there's going to be spoilers for this movie a little bit. Because the way it ends almost the way the book starts. And to start a movie, you want people to know the world that you're in, and you want them to have fun while they're in there. And so having a car chase, a race, is a better way for us to get our adrenaline up and be like, oh, we're in for a good time, than watching Wade go. Which we will see later on. Yeah. But it sets you up for a part where you're like, okay, let's have fun right off the bat, and then we could take our time and do the other quests.
Yeah, and on top of all that, it was a great way to take all these random references that we saw in the trailer and put them into something concrete where they had a purpose for being there. It wasn't just, look at this, look at that, look how shiny these things are. King Kong was part of this race. He was sort of the final gamut you had to run, and that was... it was necessary. It wasn't just King Kong for the sake of King Kong. And all these cars you see, the DeLorean, the Akira motorcycle, they're there because these characters are trying to win this race and they're just souping up their vehicles. They did keep one thing from the book, at least in this scene, that I really like, which is the concept of Wade is very poor. Wade does not have money. He's Charlie Bucket, essentially. And, all the other players in the game are able to spend money to get better equipment. That's actually one thing that I wish they dive into a little bit more, but it's okay that they didn't, was that if you wanted to go to another planet in the Oasis and play different parts of the game, it costs money to travel to other planets. And Wade didn't have the money, so he was just kind of stuck on like the newbie planets where everything was weak. And that was sort of like a big blow to his ego, and he couldn't really do much. It was very Charlie Bucketish that way. And they at least showed us a little bit of that with him scooping up coins every time somebody would crash on the racetrack. Did you miss that at all? Like, were you upset that they kind of left that out?
I wasn't obsessed. I wasn't upset that they left it out. But I was. There was that, and there's also the fact that I mentioned this to you yesterday while we were leaving. How there are safe planets where you can't be killed on, and there are dangerous planets where you can be killed on. And there was those are two little things that I mean, it's fine. It kind of, I wouldn't mind hearing somebody who's never read the book's opinion of everything to hear what they kind of think of it. But those were two things that I kind of wish were in there, just mentioned slightly, because Wade has a nice little voiceover at the beginning. It would have been nice just to like, okay, let's get that information out, just a little bit more about how the Oasis works. It's just small touches, but again, the movie is so much fun that you forget about it halfway through anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, you're having too good of a time to care about it. Then the next challenge in the book was that Wade had to go inside of a movie and reenact the movie. And in the book, the movie was Wargames. And you're a big fan of Wargames. I'm a big fan of Wargames. And we weren't sure, we never saw anything in the trailer that alluded to this happening. So,
at all.
Yeah, so I actually forgot about the whole Wargames thing. Like, it wasn't in my mind until we saw its replacement. And then I realized what was happening. And what did they replace it with?
The Shining. Or The Shining. Is it
The Shining.
The Shining. The Shining, which I want to know if that was a Spielberg thing or not. Because Spielberg and Kubrick, right? Like, I want to know, is that a Spielberg thing? But I like the way they kind of were like, well, this is a moment that Halliday hates, and it's a movie that the creator hates, Stephen King hates. So I like the way that how they use that together, and the way they use The Shining was amazing, because Wargames is all dialogue heavy, especially in the book, it's all dialogue. But I did not forget about the Wargames stuff at all, because that is my favorite part of the book for whatever reason. I'm like, how does that work? And I'm still, and that's one of the things I was curious about seeing in the movie. Why I was a little bit disappointing it was The Shining, because I was like, how does Wargames work in a movie like this? I was trying to wrap my head around it, and I guess I'll never know.
It's too bad, like, on one hand, because Matthew Broderick is known for being a voice actor, so there exists a parallel world somewhere where they put that part in, and there's just like a CG young Broderick and he's doing his own voice. I feel like that would have been just something that is in the realm of possibility for a movie like this. But it's okay. I mean, The Shining worked out so beautifully. They recreated the Overlook Hotel set to a scary amount of detail.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like the main room there, the staircase, the hallway, the elevator, the kitchen, the room, I forget the number of the room where the girl's in the bathtub. 327, thank you. Just everything was so, and the ballroom just down to the wire. And I think my favorite aspect of this thing was, I want to know who came up with the idea that H did not see The Shining. That was brilliant.
Yeah, that was done really, really well.
What an excellent way to, you have these characters in this virtual movie, and it could have been very annoying if everybody, all the characters were just like, oh, I know what happens next, we have to do this and that. But to have that one character who's just like, I've never seen The Shining, what is this scary, am I gonna be scared? And like all this stuff that happens to her, oh man, that was
one of my things with the book, was how everybody seemed to know everything almost too well. And so I actually really loved and appreciated that moment.
Exactly. It kept them from becoming know-it-alls. And you're right, in the book sometimes they got really know-it-all, and it's like, okay, dial it back a bit. But the H shiny thing, like I could watch that scene like over and over, and the way they recreated the photo with Holiday still gets me every like. um, and then we move on to the final challenge, which is very similar to how it was in the book actually, where you have to play adventure, and you have to not beat it but find Word Robinette's Easter egg. But I like the way they did it too, because they dragged it out. They made it like a big thing, you were vocalizing a lot during this. You liked this part with the Sixers trying to find them.
Vocalize it. Yeah, I loved it. I loved hearing all the old video games. I loved watching people play like this in virtual reality land. I loved, when you beat a game, you died.
Yeah,
it's so awesome because it wasn't about beating the game. I love the way IOI kind of the way that it was portrayed in this moment, where there were the game players, there were the workers, there was Ben Mendelsohn, and then there were the people that actually kind of appreciated what Halliday did. I liked what they did there a lot, actually.
I actually want to give a shout out. I love those scientist characters, and we don't see them too often, but during that climax, they keep popping up, especially that woman with the red hair.
Yeah.
Like, she was fantastic. She was just carrying all those little scenes by herself and like coming up with ideas, and her reactions were just, I want to watch that again and just pay more attention to her and what those people around her are doing. They were so much fun.
So good.
And then, so those were the big changes for the games themselves. And then they tweaked some other things. If you've read the book, you know that there's a big moment, where Wade Watts kind of loses everything he has, and he kind of has to start from scratch. And he does this by going undercover into IOI, into like this evil corporate empire, and basically living as one of their wage slaves. Because they essentially have like slaves who work in the Oasis for them, and they took that and they chopped it away and sort of did a switcheroo. You want to talk about what they did and whether or not you enjoyed it more or less than the book?
I don't know if I enjoyed it more or less. I think what they did made sense, because there's a point when it changes from the book. It goes like this. It's kind of like if you watch About a Boy with Hugh Grant. The movie and the book follow each other very well, and then there's a moment where they just separate, and they become two separate things. And because you're so on board with it for the parts that they're like this, you stay with it, whatever course it deviates with. And that's how I felt with this. I thought, because there's another thing we're going to talk about later where I was really looking forward to seeing that almost as much as Wargames, and that does not come to pass at all. But because I was so on board, because they organically had things happening with the characters, and because the way they interact, and because of what happens, I'm glad they went that direction, as opposed to possibly forcing the other way in.
Yeah, and you're right. There exists a world somewhere where they forced it and it doesn't fit. But essentially, instead of Wade going undercover and sort of destroying IOI from the inside, Artemis gets kidnapped in the real world and forced to work in IOI, and it becomes sort of like a rescue thing. And I think they kind of did that as sort of a homage to the whole video game idea of like save the princess, because from that point on, Wade is like, I have to go save Artemis. Yeah. And they're riding around in that van, and she, they get her out, and then she starts sabotaging stuff, and it actually added a lot of tension, because they're doing their Oasis thing, and she's on the battlefield with them, but at the same time she's like, Sorrento might find me because I'm 10 feet away from him. Yeah. And it created a lot of suspense that wasn't there, and the book was more of a slow boil when it got to that point. So again, Spielberg and Zach Penn and Ernie Klein, they knew where to sort of not trim the fat, but like you said, take it in another direction that suits the medium. But
it sticks. It's the same themes. It's the same. Everything's the same, but flipped upside down.
Yeah, exactly. It's a parallel universe. For all you comic book fans out there, it's just like Earth 1, Earth 2. Then we got Simon Pegg's character, Ogden Morrow. And he was, first of all, I've never seen Simon Pegg do an American accent, so that was really cool. I've never heard that
Actually,
before.
when they cast him, I was like, I liked it, but I was also kind of like, that's interesting. But then it made sense.
Yeah. And he didn't have a lot to do in the movie. His part was very small, but every time he's there, it's like I like that they cast. I like when this happens. They cast a guy like Simon Pegg, who's known for being very funny, but all of his parts were very serious and almost sad. Like he was a very melancholy kind of character, and he played it so well. But you still love the guy, and like he's just like this nice man. And when push came to shove at the end of the movie, he was just, you find out he was helping more than the characters realized, and that was a big part of the book too. Did you like that shift in Og?
Yeah, well, that was the other part of the book that I was looking forward to see is when he takes them, like, was it almost 2/3 of the way through the book, halfway through the book?
Yeah, because in the book he's DJing at the nightclub.
That's but they don't know. But yeah, and so he's there, and then he kind of takes them to his like mansion, and he's like, "You guys, this is a safe place. No one's going to find you here." And I was kind of waiting for that to happen, and then when Artemis got taken, I was like, "Oh, that's not going to happen. There's no way." So I'm like, "Why would you cast Simon Pegg if he's not going to have a part in this?" And then he had a huge part, and it ended up working out a lot. I thought it worked out a lot. The one thing for me, the one negative thing I said in my review, because I was having trouble doing anything negative, but the one thing is there are a few slower parts at the beginning, but I wish there was a couple more breathing room towards just before that final battle, just one more like spot to breathe. But because of the way the plot moved and it deviated from the book, this is the one, I guess, negative slight I would say. It's not even negative. It's like a small gripe, like overlook it. I just would like just a little bit of like, okay, we're all good, because it's like chase,
Yeah.
right? So I just would have been nice, but I mean that's just, honestly, it's a really small gripe. It wasn't something until I was talking about it in my review yesterday that I even really thought about, and it was because of that part of the book where Og takes them, and actually in the park you see in the trailer that goes around with the fountain in the middle. I thought that was outside of Og's mansion, actually.
Same, yeah, because he had a big fountain like that. Speaking of chase, very quick sidebar. They added that new character, that villain. I forget her first name, and her last name was Xandor. She was played by Hannah John Kamen, and this girl, if you look up her resume online, the films she's been in 4 movies, but she has the most fun resume. Like, fanboys like us would be so jealous just seeing her resume, and I want to bring it up because it's the most, the most 4 random movies you could possibly think of, like, and the perfect resume for somebody. But what did you think of her character and like how they sort of integrated her into this?
I think she was necessary to what they were doing, because Mendelssohn's doing his thing, and he needed the muscle, to go outside, because the head of the company is not going to do the dirty work. He needed that person with him, so I was okay. I was on board with it. I thought the ending, the Mendelssohn ending. I keep saying Mendelssohn, but that was a little bit weak, I thought.
In the cop car?
Yeah. No, like, sorry. That, but like also just before, the way he walked towards the thing with the gun, and I was like, I don't know. He's only got like 6 bullets. Someone take one for the team here, Like, and plus you're behind him, whack him over the head, whack him. But I thought she was fine. Like she played the point, and she kind of, they were more on their tails than they are in the book. Like once Wade's house camper is destroyed, he's pretty much good for a while in the book, if I remember correctly. But in this, they're always on him.
Yeah, I think, and that was like part of the big change, because in the book, when the camper blows up, that's when he goes undercover in their company under a false name and everything. Like, and he shaves his head, changes his look. But yeah, this girl's sort of just she's kind of a ticking clock. She's just always on their ass, chasing them down. Now I've got her resume here, and it's hilarious. Like I said, there's 4 movies, and like it's the greatest resume I've ever seen for an actor. 4 movies. So she's got Ready Player One.
Good movie.
Then she's got Star Wars: The Force Awakens as First Order Officer Number 1. She plays one of the best friends in Tomb Raider, the new Tomb Raider. And then this summer, she is one of the main characters in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Who is her agent?
I don't know, but isn't that like the greatest resume you've ever seen in your life? Just those 4. That's it. That's her filmography in terms of just film.
That's kind of incredible, actually.
But yeah, she was a cool character. I liked her. One big shift that has to do with Og that I kind of miss from the book is the way that Wade gets that quarter, the extra life quarter. Because with the movie, Og gives it to him, and he kind of gets it from just doing his regular research. But
Yeah.
one of the things I loved about the book, because remember how the Oasis is very big and there's like thousands of planets, whatever. Wade finds that quarter by going to some random planet that nobody ever visits in some dark random corner of some dark random house. Like the spot where this quarter is hidden is like 1 in a trillion, and he's alone. Nobody ever goes there. He's just off in some dusty corner of the Oasis, and I love that. I love like the solitude of some of the areas, and I didn't quite feel that in this one. Even when he goes to the holiday sort of Hall of Records, and he says, nobody comes here anymore. It still doesn't feel like he's in some dark, cobwebbed corner of the universe. He's still out in the open. You know what I mean? Did you feel that?
Yeah, because there are establishing shots, but there's no real establishing. Halliday's house at the end, there's no establishing shot. You're just inside of it. H's little basement hut thing, you're just inside of it. You're just inside. At the beginning, you see the world, but once you go in it, there's no look around me, look what's happening around me. There's none of that really, except for the very, very end, obviously for the battle. But for the most part, there's none of that, which is part of the breathing that I was talking about. I think that would have fit in. But again, the movie wasn't trying to convey that like the book was, I guess. So whatever. You got that at the end when everything goes boom.
That is true, yeah. But I do miss that solitude. I do miss that whole feeling of just going off the edge of the map and just finding something cool there. But those are the big major differences in Ready Player One. Was there anything I missed? Anything you wanted to bring up?
No. There were some other differences, but those are the big ones for sure.
Yeah, those are the ones that I think affected the plot the most and just sort of the overall tone of the film. But they are not bad differences. They are just simply different in and of themselves. And that's great because, like I said, at the end of this book, all I wanted was more, and this movie is more. It's not more of the same, it's more, which is great. So that has been this little bite-sized done together, the little differences between Ready Player One. Like I said, you can also go to James's channel, Digital Charcuterie, and you can see him talk about Ready Player One too, and also on Rebel Scum Podcast, where we talk about Star Wars sometimes. But James, thank you. That's all we talk about. We never talk about Ready Player One on that channel yet. But thank you so much, James. And where can people find you on social media if they want to see it?
Petzafina, at PEZZAFINA. That's me.
And you can find me right here and, of course, on Facebook at Andrew Fantasia. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Adios.